We're on a quest to deliver a quartet of quivering cubes in this listy list edition of Little Big Thumbs. Welcome to Little Big Thumbs, a channel that's all about finding great games that are equally fun for little players and big players. My name is JP, and I'm just gonna say it. Dice games are the best games around. The beauty of dice is that they can serve so many purposes. They can be flicked and tossed around like in Problem Picnic, or stacked and balanced like in Teeter Tower. Heck, dice can even be built as we're playing a game, like in Rattlebones. These little cubes of joy are so versatile and dynamic, and I just love them to bits. But what I do want to know is, do you have a favorite game that makes use of dice? If so, drop a comment to let us know. In today's board gaming landscape, there are so many games to choose from, and it's easy for a great game to slip under the radar and not receive all the love it deserves. Right here, right now, we're going to learn about 4 dicey games that deserve a brighter share of the spotlight. And in true Little Big Thumbs fashion, each of these games can be enjoyed by kids and adults together. So, I think it's time. Why don't we get on rolling and learn some more about these funky fun experiences? Our first fantastic find is called One Too Many Rabbits. This one is for 1 to 4 players ages 6 and up and can last anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. The goal of One Too Many Rabbits is to be the first player to get rid of all of the cards that are in their hand. And that includes cards numbered 1 through 12, as well as a few unique and special cards. The way we do this is by rolling 1, 2, or 3 dice. Using the results on those dice, we can choose to discard rabbits from our hand or commit an act of rabbitage. So if I roll a 6 and 2 2s, I could discard my 10, or an 8 and a 2, or a 6 and a 4. Making that choice about what cards to get rid of when is a really important consideration. We always start the game with 1 wild card in our hand that can be used as any number at any point in the game. The special cards do add some further complexity, but if you're playing with particularly young players, you can choose to just leave these out of the game for your first few plays. And let's not forget about that rabbitage. Instead of rolling the dice, you can choose to take the risk of giving one of your cards to another player. However, in order to do so, you'll need to draw 2 cards. My kids have loved playing One Too Many Rabbits. It's not a game that we'll be pulling out after the kids are asleep, but as a light and fun dice rolling activity that also helps sharpen some math and hand management skills, this game is a hopping good time for the entire family. Our next game is called Die of the Dead, which is published by Radical 8 Games and can be played with 2 to 5 players and is recommended by the publisher for ages 12 and up. Personally, we found it perfectly fine to play the core rules of this game with 7 or 8-year-olds, but those advanced rules should probably be left to older players. Each game will typically last about 30 to 45 minutes and maybe a little longer with the advanced rules and expansions. The first thing you'll notice about Die of the Dead is how absolutely stunning it looks. The centerpiece is this marigold cardboard staircase, and to win the game, we need to guide the souls of our loved ones, represented by dice, to the top of those stairs. And the way we move those dice onto and up that staircase is by navigating this conveyor belt of 3-dimensional caskets. Each of these caskets is aligned with an action, but while the caskets are moving each round, the actions are not. Our dice will enter the casket conveyor from the leftmost location, but once it moves to the next space to the right, it closes up again. There's a degree of memory work involved to figure out where your dice might be at any given time. We love the film Coco in this house, so it's been easy for us to fall in love with the look and feel of Die of the Dead. The gameplay is quite rich despite its relative simplicity, with a bit of chaos to keep us on our toes, a bit of memory required to thrive, and a bouquet of decisions that are interesting and plentiful. As with so many games that we love, the core experience here is really quite accessible, with plenty to keep adults tuned into the story that the game is telling. However, there are several layers that can be brought into the game to raise the complexity level, including 2 expansions to turn the core gameplay on its head. As the souls of the deceased return to the land of the living, we will be returning to this game over and over again. Our next game is a delightful rainbow of rolling and writing, and it's called That's Pretty Clever Kids. This one is for 2 to 4 players, ages 5 and up, and games will typically last 15 to 20 minutes. In this one, we're at a birthday party and looking to scoop up balloons, candles, presents, and some sweet treats. I'm not quite sure why we're all leaving with presents here. Are we all celebrating a birthday on the same day? Or are we a gang of present poachers? The thematic disconnect notwithstanding, this is a super compact game with just 5 dice, a pad of game sheets, and a small handful of pencils. We'll each take turns rolling the 5 dice and selecting one type of category to cross off on our sheet. All of the leftover dice become available for the other players to choose from, meaning that everyone has something to do every single turn. Just like in the other games from the Clever series, we're looking to set up combos to maximize our score. Unlike those other games, however, there's no complicated math to do at the end of the game. We just count up the number of rainbow stars we've collected throughout the game, and whoever has the most is the winner. That's Pretty Clever Kids is a great introduction to the roll and write genre, and despite its kid-focused presentation, there are still some quality decisions to be made here. Adults may find themselves surprised to see that they're enjoying this game just as much as the kids. Our final featured game today is one that's received plenty of appreciation over the years, but it has a brand new shiny edition coming, and I think it deserves a healthy dose of fresh praise. Nexus Ops first arrived on the scene in the early 2000s from Avalon Hill with the funkiest psychedelic miniatures ever seen up to that point. It returned in 2012 with a Fantasy Flight edition that didn't quite capture the imagination of the original. But hope is back on the table with an upcoming new edition from Renegade Game Studios. Renegade has been knocking it out of the park with their refreshed editions of classic Hasbro properties. We covered their new edition of Robo Rally not too long ago, and that gives me a lot of excitement for a new Nexus Ops. Back when I first entered the board gaming hobby, Nexus Ops was described as a risk killer. A game of managing resources, spending them to put monsters out onto the board, and sending those monsters out to control territory and gobble up opponents through a pretty simple dice-driven combat system. But the game is won and lost based on a deck of secret objective cards, and this is the element that might make this one a little bit tricky for children. A full game of Nexus Ops is played to 12 victory points, which can run a little long for younger players. But if we cut that number down to 6 or 8 points and play with those secret objective cards face up, that'll make for a much quicker and accessible introductory game. Older players may need to talk kids through their first couple of turns here, but there is so much information visible and accessible right on the table, and all of that dicey combat is going to do a great job of holding our attention. At the center of the action is a King of the Hill space called the Monolith. And that one holds a great deal of influence when it's controlled, and when we get a couple of rubium dragons wrestling for dicey dominance up there, it is a thing of beauty. If you like smashy smash dice games, Nexus Ops is going to be one that you're going to want to play whether or not kids are at the table, and I guarantee it to be a monstrously good time. So there you have it, 4 excellent dice games that maybe haven't gotten all of the spotlight that I think they deserve. These games are going to be great fun with kids and adults at the table. Some of them kids might enjoy more, some might, and adults might enjoy more, but either way, at some level, everyone's going to find something to enjoy about these 4 games. I would love it if you would drop your underappreciated dice games in the comments of this video, and while you're at it, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, whether you've got little players or big players, make sure that you keep playing games that make your thumbs go way up. Bye for now.